Welcome to Betting with Benny on the FTN Network, sponsored by your friends at FTN Bets. I'll be your host, Benny Ricciardi, aka your boy from the swamp up in North Jersey, giving you a first look at Week 11 NFL lines from the sports books in my home Garden State. The first game we're going to look at here is the Thursday night game between the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks. Cardinals are 6-3, 4-5 against the closing line of the spread. If you listened to the show last week, Arizona was the team that we talked about. They opened at -1.5. They actually closed at -2.5. And anybody who saw the game after that Hail Mary at the end, that put Arizona up 2. They decided to take a knee so that they wouldn't chance messing up the snap and giving up a 2-point conversion in the other direction to tie the game. So by taking that knee, if you got in early at -1.5, they're actually 5-4 against the closing line or against the spread. But like I said, they are 4-5 against the closing line because it did close at 2.5, and you wound up being on the wrong side of the hook in that game. They are 3-5-1 to the over so far this season, but the last 3 games they played were the 3 games that they did go to the over. So I don't know if that's a function of the totals coming down or just a function of them scoring more lately, as the offense has been pretty explosive. Their offense is actually ranked 9th in the league DVOA, and they take on a Seattle defense that's ranked 24th and giving up a lot of points. It's an interesting matchup here because the Cardinals also have a pretty good defense that's ranked 10th DVOA, and they're taking on the Seattle offense that is ranked 4th DVOA going into last week. Seattle is 6-3, 5-4 against the spread, 6-3 to the over. They did lose their last 2 games at Buffalo and at the Los Angeles Rams. You really can't fault them for that. Those are 2 good teams that they lost to. They lost to both of them on the road. Obviously, you don't like to see a team on a 2-game losing streak here, but those are two losses that we can kind of excuse a little bit. So my number on this game, I actually have Seattle -2 on a neutral field. And then when you add the home field advantage in, I'm pretty much right on market here at 3.5. So not really looking to get any money down on this game on Thursday night, although I do think it will be a very entertaining game, one that I'm looking forward to watching. The next game I want to talk about here is Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Washington Redskins. The Bengals are 2-6-1 on the season, 6-3 against the spread, and 6-3 to the over. So they have been performing very well with the Vegas lines included. Last week, they did not look very good, but they did take on the Pittsburgh Steelers' number 2 DVOA defense, which kind of shut them down. It's not like things get a lot easier for them this week. Washington is actually number 6 DVOA on the defensive side of the football. The one good thing for Cincinnati, Joe Mixon was supposed to be back last week, and he wasn't. It does look like he's going to be back this week, but again, this is Sunday night into Monday morning that we're filming this video, so we still have a whole week of practice to see what happens with Joe Mixon, but definitely keep an eye on it. On the other side here, we got the Washington Redskins, who are 2-7. They are 3-4-2 against the spread, 4-4-1 to the over. This is a team that only averages about 18 points a game. They have the number 31 DVOA offense in the league. The only offense that's ranked worse than them is my New York Jets, which just goes to show you how bad this Washington offense has been at putting up points. When I look at my numbers for this game, on a neutral field, I have Cincinnati at about a 1.3 favored in this game. So when you factor in the home field advantage, we're basically looking at a pick 'em here, or maybe a slight edge to Cincinnati at most. Both of the money lines on DraftKings and FanDuel for Cincinnati are negative. Actually, both of the money lines in this game are negative. If Cincinnati got to even money, I would probably do it because this is basically a coin flip, maybe a slight edge to Cincinnati in this game. So at -103, at -102 on the money line, that's probably where it is. And when we're talking about 1 point is never a spread bet that I'm willing to make here. So I'm not really interested in anything on this game. The next game we want to talk about, we got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Eagles are 3-5-1 on the season, 3-6 against the spread, 4-5 to the over. This is the number 30 DVOA offense. So the only 2 worse are the Washington Redskins we just talked about and my New York Jets. Really, they're getting all the skills guys back healthy right now, but I don't think it matters. The offensive line for this team is just so bad that they're not getting a lot of time to get some of these plays off. They're not opening big holes in the running game. it just really doesn't look good for Philly. And they just gave up 27 points to the New York Giants. So it's not even like the defense is all that great and is going to save them here. The other side of this game, we have the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are 6-3 on the season, which is a little bit surprising to me. But they are just 3-6 against the spread. Now, again, that could be 4-5. Anybody who had money on them last week, that was a brutal beat when Nick Chubb raced down the sidelines and then ran out at the 1 yard line. I think the closing line in that game was 4.5. It was 10-7 when he ran out at the 1 yard line. He gets into the end zone. Anybody who bet on Washington last week would have covered. But obviously, if you bet on him last week, you know what happened, and you didn't. So let's see here. We're looking at Cleveland as a number of -2 on a neutral field, plus they're getting home field advantage here. So my number on this game is probably somewhere around 3 to 3.5. If I was going to bet, I would be a little more interested in that 3 number there. I don't want to give up the hook on DraftKings. I'd rather go on FanDuel. But like I said, 3.5 is the number that both of these sites have, and that's the number that I have when I do my numbers. So really, I don't think I'm going to have a bet on this game as well. I'm pretty much on market here. So the next game I want to talk about here, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Pittsburgh still undefeated at 9-0. They are 7-2 against the spread this year. 5-3-1 to the over. Pittsburgh has the number 2 DVOA defense in the league, allowing just 19 points a game. Their offense is around middle of the pack. They're just 15th ranked DVOA, but they have scored at least 24 points in every game they've played this season, and are averaging close to 28, which gives them about a 9-point differential between what they're scoring and what they're giving up on average this season. One of the better ones we see in the league. The other side of this game, you have Jacksonville, who's really at the other end of the spectrum. They're 1-8, having won their first game of the season against Indianapolis and dropping 8 in a row since. They are 4-5 against the spread and 5-4 to the over, though. They played the Packers last week, and the Packers didn't cover against them. And honestly, the Texans didn't cover against them the week before either. So they do have 2 wins in a row against the spread. Do I think that really matters here? No, I actually don't. My number here, I have Pittsburgh as a 14-point favorite on a neutral field. So maybe you get this game down to like 12.5 or 13 with the home field advantage for Jacksonville here. I feel like we have at least 2.5 to 3 points value on the spread here. So at -10 on DraftKings, I would be interested in that. I would bet Philly here at -10. I think that number is going to wind up going up before game time here. So if I can lock in the 10 right now, I'm going to. That's why you see it highlighted there in yellow. Pittsburgh -10 is going to be a bet I'm on. And then obviously, if you're somebody who plays teasers, I think teasing this game all the way down to -4 is going to be something that's very interesting too. Hopefully you can get it in before before that spread number winds up going up. Next game I want to talk about here is the surging Miami Dolphins taking on the Denver Broncos, who are kind of going in the opposite direction. Miami is 6-3 on the season, 7-2 against the spread, 4-5 to the over. They have won 5 games in a row, beating San Francisco, the New York Jets. All right, those 2 games that you can understand. San Fran was banged up. The New York Jets suck. But they did beat the LA Rams, the Arizona Cardinals, and the LA Chargers in their last 3 games, which is pretty impressive. Over this 5-game streak, they're winning these games by an average score of 31-16. So Miami does look pretty good. The defense is looking really impressive. The offense is still a work in progress under Tua. I think there's work to be done there, but not too bad overall. Denver is 3-6, but they are 5-4 against the spread and 6-3 to the over. They have the 29th DVOA offense, so one of the worst in the league. But they do have the 9th DVOA defense here. Really what you're hoping for with Denver is that they can cause some turnovers in this game against the Miami side of the ball with the young quarterback in Tua, because their offense is not very good. Miami's defense is pretty good, and you got to think that Miami's defense is going to be able to shut this offense down. So if you're looking to play unders here, it is a pretty low number, but I do think the under is the way to go. To be honest, I'm looking at the numbers for the spread and the money line. My number in this game is Miami -3.5 on a neutral field. So even if you factor home field advantage in, you're still probably looking at like Miami 2.5 on the market. I like the fact that you can get this number under a field goal on FanDuel. Don't really love the fact that it's juiced up a little bit at -114, but that's not a lot of juice to be asked to pay. As you can see, I did highlight this number in yellow. FanDuel at under 3. I am going to be on Miami in this game. The next game we're going to have to talk about here, unfortunately, is my New York Jets taking on the LA Chargers. The good news here is the Jets are coming off a bye, but they are 0-9 on the season, 2-7 against the spread, 4-5 to the over. They have the worst ranked offense in the league, DVOA, 28th ranked defense in the league, DVOA. So it's not like they're good on either side of the ball. The Chargers have a 2-7 record, but are 5-4 against the spread, 6-3 to the over, and they have gone to the over in the last 6 of their games so far this year, basically coinciding with Justin Herbert taking over as their quarterback. Their defense is ranked 16th going into last week. Their offense is ranked 11th. So obviously both of those on both sides of the ball, way better than the Jets. They're at home in this game. It is a big number here, but it does kind of make a little bit of sense. So my number here would be the Chargers at about 7.5 on a neutral field. You add in home field advantage, that number gets up to 9. The Jets are coming off a bye, though, and you do have to factor that in a little bit. So I'm looking at a number of LA Chargers -8 here. So is there a little bit of value based on my number on the New York Jets? Absolutely. As a New York Jets fan, and as somebody who's giving you advice on gambling, you do not bet on the New York Jets, even if there is a little bit of a number in their advantage here. Listen, I don't know. Maybe I'm a jaded Jets fan. Maybe that's the problem here. But the New York Jets are not a team I ever want to have money on, even at 9.5. I would like it a lot better if this gets down to 9 so we can tease it down to 3. But at this point, I don't even mind teasing it down from 9.5 to 3.5 on the Chargers side. The Jets are that bad. The Jets are going to lose this game. It's really just a matter of how much. So the more points I can get on my side, the better. Like I said, I don't know if I'd play this number straight up at 9.5, but it's definitely going to be something I tease down to 3.5. And hopefully, if it gets down to 9, we can even tease it down to 3. Because, like I said, based on my numbers, I actually only have the Chargers here by a -8. So there is a chance it could get down to -9, or God, even -8.5. If it gets to 8.5, you should be teasing this thing right away to under a field goal. That would be one of my best bets for the week. And the last Sunday game I want to talk about here with you guys is the Green Bay Packers taking on the Indianapolis Colts. This is a really, really interesting game. Green Bay is 7-2, 6-3 against the spread, 5-4 to the over. They have the number 2 DVOA offense in the league, and they're taking on Indianapolis, who has the number 3 DVOA defense. So this is a case of strength versus strength on that side of the ball. On the other side of the ball, we have Indianapolis coming off a little bit of extra rest. They did play the Titans on Thursday Night Football, beat them 34-17. Looked very good doing it as well. Indy is 6-3 on the season, 5-4 against spread, 5-4 to the over. Now, we talked about the other side of the ball already. On this side of the ball, Indy's offense is ranked 22nd DVOA, and they take on a Green Bay defense that's ranked 21st DVOA. So the other side of the ball is strength versus strength. This side of the ball is weakness versus weakness. You can throw the ball on Green Bay, but that's not really Indianapolis's game. That's not really their strength, which makes this a very interesting spot to look at here. When I run my numbers, I end up with Green Bay being favored by 0.5 point after factoring in the home field advantage for Indianapolis. Indy is favored on both DraftKings and FanDuel, and you can get Green Bay money line at +100 on FanDuel right now. Like I said, I don't even have this as a coin flip. I have Green Bay, even after factoring in the home field advantage for Indianapolis, I have Green Bay here should be favored by 0.5 point. So to be getting even money on something that I think is even better than a coin flip is a number that I'm actually willing to take. So Green Bay at even money on FanDuel is a number that I'd be looking to get some money down on right now. I do think this is going to switch to Green Bay being the favorite by game time. And remember, when we're talking about numbers like 1, -1, it's not that big a deal to see them switch from Green Bay being on a 1-point underdog to Green Bay being a 1-point favorite. You know, you're crossing the 0. You're probably going to wind up with a money line that's in the negative. I think both teams are going to wind up with a negative money line here. I don't see this game getting up to 2.5 or 3 in either direction. And like I said, if I had to pick a direction, I would think that this game kind of swings towards Green Bay before we wind up starting. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, wow, that wasn't a lot of games this week. There must be a lot of teams on bye. There are actually 4 teams on bye this week, but There are other reasons why I don't have all the games here. Two of these games we're probably going to have to wait until we get some more clarity on the quarterback situation. Atlanta takes on New Orleans this week, but Drew Brees did not play the second half of that game. They actually had Jameis Winston come out and play the second half of that game. So until we know the status of Drew Brees and how badly he was injured on Sunday night, they said it was something like a back issue. So we'll have to wait and see. Again, I'm doing this late Sunday night, so we don't even have a day of practice or a day of interviews to kind of get a little bit more information on that. But that's the reason why there's no line yet on that Atlanta New Orleans game. The same thing goes for the Detroit and Carolina game. Teddy Bridgewater was hurt towards the end of that Carolina game. PJ Walker came in and wound up being the quarterback for them. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, based on what I saw in this injury, it doesn't look like Teddy Bridgewater is going to play. And if he does play, he's not going to be at 100%. So we have to wait to see what happens with that game as well. The Baltimore New England game actually just ended right before I started sitting down to record this video. So we don't have lines on either one of those two teams because that was a Sunday night football game. And we also don't have a line for the Minnesota Dallas game because that's the Monday night football game. Baltimore plays Tennessee this weekend. New England plays Houston. We will have lines on all those games come up during the week. And you can get over to FTN Bets and figure out what's going on with those games as we start getting some numbers on them and some of our experts start looking and figuring out which way it's going to go. Remember, the idea of this exercise is the earlier we can start looking at these lines, the better the chance we're going to have to be on the right side of any line movement and beat the book by getting a better number. You're not going to beat the book if you wait till Sunday at 12:45 to place your bets for 1 o'clock football games. You really have to try to get down early in the week if you want to get the best numbers. And that's what we're doing here. We had some good examples of it last week. Like I said, the Arizona game, if you listened last week and took Arizona at 1.5 on Sunday when the video came out, you would have been on the right side of that game. If you waited until game time and took Arizona at -2.5, you ended up with a loss there. So that's just a really good example of why it makes sense for you guys to look at these numbers early in the week and get your money down if there's something you see that you like. So this has been another episode of Betting with Benny, going over Week 11 lines for the NFL on the FTN Network, sponsored by our good friends at FTN Bets.